So look, there's lots of different classes of pesticides, and they all react and work very differently with the pest and or on the plant. But some things like grass selectives, those group A herbicides that we use, they are absorbed, they are systemic within the plant, so they move within the crop plant as well as the weed plant. And depending on the type of chemistry as to where they accumulate and where they head to. Early in season, a lot of those things head down to the roots, and they do their job down there to kill the plant. But particularly where we're talking mid to late season products, so we've got plants that are flowering, we've got pods and seeds being formed. Anything that's systemic will tend to head in that direction and therefore end up in the grain, particularly when it comes to herbicides. Some of the other things like fungicides are non-systemic, they're just sitting on the leaf surface doing their job, they give us less trouble. But if you have a look at some of the likes of those group A labels, it actually says do not apply after the commencement of flowering. And it's really important that we obey those things, because if we've got half the crop flowering and we put on a grass selective herbicide, we will end up with residues in that grain which could quite easily exceed the MRL. So the whole idea of a withholding period is to give us time, or give the plant time, to detoxify or break down that pesticide that it's absorbed. And again, it's never simple. So depending on the type of chemistry and its use pattern when it's been used, you could have on a label withholding period not required when used according to the label. So the label said you can use this herbicide post-emergent up to the 6th leaf stage of the chickpea plant. So we're harvesting months later. The studies have been done, the science has been done to determine that there's very little or no residue left in that grain. So you end up with a statement like that. Whereas other things, particularly those products that are used late in the season, we're getting very close to harvest. Has the plant had enough time to break down those active ingredients? So you can end up with, therefore, withholding periods of, the label may say 4 weeks, it may say 7 days. So something that's 7 days is obviously breaking down pretty quickly. So that's good, useful for everybody. Something that's like 4 weeks means it's actually taking quite a bit of time for the plant to metabolise it and break it down. And yeah, we then have the risk, I guess, if we get backed into a corner of saying, has that withholding period expired before harvest, or am I going to start cutting corners? And that's pretty dangerous. If you start cutting corners, your risk is definitely going up. Really, by the letter of the law, it's illegal. You must obey those directions on the label, and anything on a label that says do not, that's mandatory. It's illegal not to follow that direction. So do not harvest for 14 days. You must allow 14 days. But I guess, we get challenges, and if we harvest at 12 days, it's going to increase our risk. And they're the sorts of things that the marketer needs to know, that we have informed that buyer through grower declarations or other contractual requirements, so that they understand what the risks are.